Welcome to Comadres y Comics. Comadres y Comics is a podcast hosted by 3 Latina women.
We highlight the Latinx presence in the comic book industry as creators, characters, and fans.
Join us as we talk chisme, comics, fandom, and beer.
And we are very grateful and happy that both of our panelists made it on time. Omar flew out this morning and the plane was delayed, and so there was a lot of frantic texting back and forth of whether or not he was going to make it on time. And Crypto the dog is here!
Yay! Crypto! Hey guys!
Yay.
Thank you so much for joining us. Hi, Mary.
Yay!
Like, seriously, Mary, I've told Kristen before, I'm like, if Mary doesn't make it, then is it really an event?
So we'll go ahead and get started. People may or may not trickle in, but we are here regardless, and thank you all for making it to our panel. So this is the Comadres y Comics 10 Years of Community Conversation and Comics panel here at San Diego Comic-Con 2026. Yay! 10 years ago, no lie, at a local brewery in my neighborhood in Southern California, us 3 ladies sat and started a conversation with the simple idea to create a space where Latinx creators, characters, and fans could be seen, heard, and celebrated. At the time, there weren't many places consistently having these conversations. Since then, the podcast has interviewed many creators, spotlighted independent projects, celebrated milestone achievements, and helped document the growth of a more inclusive comics community. Where's our award?
I forgot it. We are an award-winning podcast, by the way, guys. I was supposed
she was gonna
to bring it. And I was gonna hang it around my neck, actually.
It's like a big pendant.
It's a big, huge thing, like they give soccer players or softball players.
It's a participation award, actually. We're just going to say that. No, I'm just kidding.
But this panel isn't just about celebrating a podcast anniversary. It's about looking at how the comics industry has changed over the past decade and recognizing the people, 2 of which are here today, and communities who helped drive that change. Communities, Today we'll talk about representation, independent media, community building, and what it means to create opportunities simply by making space for conversations that weren't happening elsewhere. We'll reflect on the progress we've seen, the challenges that remain, and what the next 10 years might look like for Latinx creators, and for comics as a whole. Whether you've been listening since the beginning, or this is your first time discovering Comadres y Comics, we're grateful you're here to celebrate this milestone with us. Yay!
Thank you guys very much.
So I'm going to get started by introducing who is here with you all today. I'm Kristen, and I'll be your moderator today. I am the co-owner of Santa Monica Comics Company in West Los Angeles, and I previously co-owned and managed Heidi Ho Comics in Santa Monica. Which was the longest continuously operating comic book store in Los Angeles at its sad time of closure at the end of 2023. With 12 years in comic book retail, I've worked to make comic shops more welcoming and accessible by connecting readers with stories that reflect their communities and introducing new audiences to comics. And of course, I am proud to be a co-host of the Comadres y Comics podcast. Next I have Sarah Bazan. She's a lifelong comics fan whose love of indie comics and discovering emerging creators from marginalized communities helped shape the spirit of Comadres y Comics. Before joining the podcast, she co-hosted several comics podcasts and has been instrumental in building the welcoming community we've created over the past decade. And a little known fact, but I think is super important to know about Sarah's history with comics, she used to work for Diamond Comics, packing the comics away before they got sent out to all the local comic shops. It was a slog, but we definitely needed that work back then. And then next is Jennifer Lopez. She is a queer Latina, former comic book retailer, and San Jose State English/professional and technical writing graduate from South Central Los Angeles. Yeah. Having worked in comic book retail at both Heidi Ho Comics and Jeffries Comics, she brings thoughtful insights and perspectives that broaden our conversations on the podcast, along with her signature salty commentary our listeners have come to love. Together, we've spent the last 10 years interviewing creators, covering conventions, highlighting independent comics, and building a community centered on celebrating Latinx voices in comics. We're also super thrilled to be joined by two creators whose careers and contributions reflect many of the conversations that Comadres y Comics has been having over the past decade. First, we have, I'm going to skip over Omar, and go to Henry, who is a Latinx writer. Yay. He's a writer and creator whose work explores Chicano history, culture, identity, and the power of preserving untold stories. Henry has been part of the Comadres y Comics community since the very early days of the podcast, joining us as the inaugural guest of our ancillary series, Las Pláticas, to discuss La Voz de Mayo, Tata Rambo. He later returned to talk about Handbrake Castle, and we've also had the opportunity to spotlight his work through reviews of Historias de Resistencia, Dolores Huerta, and Death of Pachuco. We are excited to have Henry join us for this conversation as we reflect on the evolution of Latinx storytelling and representation in comics over the past decade. Back to Omar. Thank you. He's also a writer-creator whose work spans science fiction, superheroes, and adventure storytelling, including Major Tomas, the Lunar Ladies, and Crusader Agent of the Vatican. Through Major Tomas, Omar places a Latino hero firmly at the center of science fiction as an astronaut, explorer, and symbol of possibility, challenging the idea of who gets to be imagined as part of humanity's future in space. His storytelling expands representation by showing that Latino characters belong in every genre, including the stories that imagine where we go next. Welcome and thank you, everybody, for being here today. Yay. And welcome and thank you all for being here today. It was a trek from the convention center, and it's nice and cool in here, but it was a mission, so I appreciate you all made it here today. Thank you. So I'm going to start off by asking a question to all of you, and Sarah, I'll just start with you. When Comadres y Comics started 10 years ago, the goal was to create a space where Latinx creators, characters, and fans could be seen and celebrated. Looking back at the last decade, how do you think the conversation around Latinx representation in comics has changed, and where do you think we still have room to grow?
Yes, just to start off, when I pitched the idea for the podcast, and as she said, I had started and failed at other podcasts, the idea for me was just to have conversations about comic books, and I just couldn't find my people, right? And then when Kristen pitched it to me, she initially wanted to focus on the Latinx representation in the comics community, and I was like, we're gonna run out of stuff to talk about. I don't think there's enough Latinos out there creating comics, and lo and behold, we have grown, we have met so many people, and there's still more to meet, and not only on the West Coast, but as far as I can tell, like the growth that we need is to attack the East Coast as well. And when I say attack, just meeting other creators and expanding Comadres Comics, not just in the West Coast, but also in the East Coast and maybe even other countries. I know we've highlighted like Mexican artists and creators, and also I think from Brazil, so I think that's the way to go. I think that's the way we're going to expand and just increase our community.
And going like to the how it has changed, like definitely, I know like we first focused on like the big two, and as we continued like recording and like looking for more content and stuff like that, then we realized like, oh, the big two, we shouldn't rely on the big two. We need to look at independent creators and independent like publishers as well to
Tiny Chef is here!
but that is, I think that is definitely the direction to go in, is definitely never relying on corporations or like bigger like entities to give you a voice. You have to carve out that space for yourself, and then they'll either notice and you get onboarded, or you keep creating that space and keep creating your own sanctuary. So definitely staying kind of in, focusing on the indie sphere. Of course, when like the big two or something, or a bigger like network or something like that does focus and highlight a Latino creator, a Latino character, or artist, or whatever sphere it falls under. Support them as much as you can, because that's the only way that they're going to stay relevant. I think now, like, the biggest issue is definitely, when I think about stuff like Primos, the TV show, and like all these other stuff, it's definitely a lack of marketing. So that is another thing. Like, they'll give them a chance, but they never market it. So that is another thing now, is like making sure that the voices are heard. So that is like definitely indie spaces, marketing, and like keeping like shows and stuff like that relevant. And that is where we have, like, where the conversation should go to next as well.
Omar, how has the conversation around Latinx representation changed over the last 10 years, and where do you think we still have room to grow?
Like, when I first started this whole comic book thing about 12 years ago, at that time I kind of felt like I had to sneak my Latinx characters into the story, or not market the story as being, you know, Latinx friendly. And back then too, it was like, oh, the dream would be to work for, like, you know, Marvel or GC, or even like an Image, and maybe I would get to work on one of the few Latinx characters at some point one day. But it's evolved, right? In 2020, I was part of this anthology called Mañana, which was 100% created by Latinx creators from all over the world. And it made like $75,000 on Kickstarter. So that showed me, like, okay, this is legit, this is real, people want this. And so I took my short story about Major Tomas and just made it into a full-length graphic novel. And you know, there was appetite for it. To your point, you know, it was marketed by Amazon and Comixology, and I just never thought that would be possible 10 years ago. It seemed like a pipe dream, but it's here, and we're not going anywhere, right? I think I heard you say one time we're like cancer, you know, they've been trying to get rid of us. We're not going anywhere.
Wow, you really listened to what I have to say. I did, wow. Hey, give it up for Amazon.
It was surprisingly, yeah.
Yeah, I think I told you guys last time we had a panel that the guy who bought my story was a middle-aged white man. But what I didn't know is that his wife was a librarian in a school full of Spanish-speaking, English as a second language kids. And he kind of consulted with her, and she was like, yes, you absolutely need this, and I absolutely need it to come out in print so we can have it in my library. So you just, you know, don't underestimate, I guess, anybody that you're pitching to or marketing to. Could be anybody out there that's, you know, open and willing to see what you have. So, yeah.
The audience has expanded.
Yes, thank you. You're much more eloquent than me.
Henry, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think we've had enough. I think enough Mexicans and brown people are in. I think we did it.
No, I need the entire industry to be brown.
No, I mean, like, I'm very lucky I ran past your booth at East LA Comics Convention, right? You had the little Green Lantern piñata.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And I shared it with the person who was writing it at the time, and, you know, it was important for me to get the word out because I'm from Tucson, Arizona, where comics is strangely popular, but also it's a place where the industry doesn't have like a presence, so the ceiling is pretty low and it's hard to get movement outside of that area. So I moved to Los Angeles to, you know, try to grow as a comic book creator. Not to say that you have to live in LA or any major market, but it helped me a lot, and it also helped, like, to Omar's point, anybody can pick up your book. I mean, the most loudest advocates for my work have not been brown people, and thankfully I am on the panel with the loudest and advocates, but, like, you know, you never know who's going to get your work, and you know, it's hard, it's competitive, there's not a lot of characters, there's not a lot of places and space, and now comic book stores are shrinking, and the economy is shrinking, and things are, I mean, it's hard to even come to San Diego Comic-Con, so You know, the accessibility and just so many different factors are always running into what we're doing, and thankfully it's free to listen to this podcast and it's free to hear about the works. So there's always work to be done. It's nice to reflect on what has come, but you know, we just got to do our best to help each other out.
Absolutely. So, Sarah and Jen, what did you hope to create when I came to you with this idea of let's do a podcast and let's focus on Latinos? Oh, sorry.
So first of all, like I said, I just wanted to talk about comics. Like, it just didn't matter what type of comic, I just wanted to talk about comics. And I honestly did not foresee that we would be doing this for 10 years. I did not foresee the camaraderie that we've formed, and all the community and all the people that we've met doing this. It's been such an honor to be in the podcast with you guys. So it's just been such an amazing journey, and I never thought that I would be sitting here with people in the audience listening to us talk. I still feel like there's somebody listening. Like, it still shocks me that people are like, yeah, listen. I'm like, oh, thank you.
And then I'm gonna join these questions. I'll hit you, Jen, next, but before Sarah, when was the moment that you realized the impact the podcast was having?
The moment, it's my favorite moment of all. I walked in, we were wearing Comadres y Comics t-shirts, and then we walked into WonderCon, and Henry said, I listened to your podcast before I said anything at all, and I was like so starstruck and dumbfounded and happy, and just like, that guy listens to us. Oh my God, guys, oh my God. It was such an amazing moment, and to be sitting here with you now is like such a like, I don't know, it's just such an amazing thing.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Well, for me, I mean, and I still look at it this way, but when we first started, I'm just all like, oh, I'm just talking comic books with my friends. And I still view it like that. And I still view it as like whenever someone says like, oh, we listen to you, I'm just like, oh, okay. It does take me by surprise, but definitely for me, it is the more like of a community and upkeeping my community and like trying to create a space. And for me, it's always comforting when somebody tells us like, oh yeah, I listened to you, and then I'm laughing like if I'm there in the room with you. And that is kind of the space that like wasn't my original intent. Not really. I was just like, I'm just gonna be talking with my friends. But I feel like if people can laugh along as they're listening, then I have created that community space that you feel included and that you can just hop into the conversations that we're having, because it is a conversation that you would have with your friends or something similar like that. So for me, like, my intention has been fulfilled, and I plan to like keep doing this for as long as they still want to do it as well. And then as soon as one of them fails, I'm like, I'm out.
I just want to add something real quick. For me, when I realized, oh my gosh, A, people are listening, and B, there's like some validity to what we're actually doing, is when Jandro Gamboa listened to our review of his comic book and said, you know what? You said something that I kind of had in the back of my mind, but I am going to create a comic specifically as answering the questions that you had. And so if you don't know Jandro, he does Monty Gomez is a Luchador. It's a great book, and there was a backstory that was kind of driving his main character's story forward. And in our review, we were like, what about those people? We want to know about them. And he created a book telling the story of those people.
Of Los Maximos.
And like, that's one of the other things, like, we don't forget, like, so okay, sometimes we forget the books that we have reviewed, but if they've made an impact and or we think that they're worthwhile, we don't forget them. We constantly keep talking about them, be like, what happened to this? Did they ever do this? Like, is there anything like else that they're doing as well? So definitely like emphasizing the creators that we do like, not that we hate everybody, but there's a few that deserve a little more attention.
Oh, gosh.
But like for me, like knowing that we had an impact, I think is when I first started in La Libreria, And like it was just like I was just all like I had to like want to emphasize like the things that I'm supporting and that I think are interesting that other people would be interested in too. And then we had someone hit us up and be like, hey, can you do an interview for me with our Kickstarter? And I was just all like, what? Like what do we have to do with your Kickstarter? And then I was just like, oh, and let me idea. So that was a fun moment for me.
Yes, having independent creators reach out to us, asking us to interview them and to highlight their Kickstarters is really surreal for us because we're like, okay, is anyone going to listen? But then when it becomes successful, I'm like, we did that. So Omar, you were talking about representation and we were talking about that also all the time on the podcast, but representation is way more than just simply having a character appear on a page. What does authentic representation look like to you?
Well, before I answer that, I want to give you guys props because you guys are not just focusing on the Latino comics community, you guys are hitting all of it, right? Like the last show I watched, you guys reviewed Persepolis, and I happened to just start reading that, so I was really like vibing with you guys and the whole history of Iran and how that book really kind of transformed the graphic memoir, genre and made it a thing. So, and I've seen you guys support LGBTQ+, and so props to you guys for being like super inclusive of like everything and everybody. And then like you guys really do have an impact. Sorry, I'm kind of like not answering the question, but like a lot of the reviewers and interviews and things that I've done over time, they're hitting the tops of the waves and they're addressing the main beats, but you guys like went deep down to the bottom of the ocean.
Sometimes too deep.
Really deep reviewing my book, and you guys like, it actually brought me to tears for the first time I listened to it. I was like, wow, they really, really get it. And you guys even had a couple insights that were even new to me as the creator of the book. I was like, wow, I didn't think of that, and they did. Amazing. So, okay, with your question now?
Well, as a creator, what is authentic representation mean to you?
So, like I was saying before, with that anthology I was in, it was just all Latinx creators from all over the world coming together to make this book. When I decided to make it into a full graphic novel, I was like, well, I'm just going to keep on with that theme. So I hired Serge Acuna and Mal Mora to do art. They're from Costa Rica, and then Raul Angulo, Costa Rica, did colors. Fabi Marquez from Brazil did colors. Taylor Esposito from New Jersey, but he's Argentinian, and he did the lettering. And then Gab Contreras did the book design. And so, to me, I felt like, yes, I'm the writer, but these people are going to bring something even from their corner of the Latinx world to the table. And I was so tickled pink when Mal and Serge would sneak things into the artwork that wasn't in the script, that they just kind of freelanced, and I was like, wow, that is so cool. Like, they added their own flavor to the story, and they're storytellers in their own right, as are the color artists and letter, etc. So for me, it wasn't enough for me to just be the writer. I really wanted a whole vecindario of people, coming together to put this out into the world. And it's a global vecindario, right? It's not just people from my neighborhood. It's, people, like I said, from Costa Rica, Brazil, New Jersey. So exotic, right?
And to your point, having Latino artists or someone from the community who is also from where the main characters are, where the story is happening, is so great because we've read books where we're looking at the background and the things that are going on, and I just can remember this panel in Mash, Bone, and Grifty where something was going on, and it's kind of a silly, kind of funny story, and the characters are really silly but amazing at the same time, and in the background there was a dresser, and on the dresser was a rosary and a candle and some other things, and I'm like, that right there looks like the dresser in my grandmother's bedroom.
Yeah.
And that is so important when telling culturally relevant stories.
Yeah, exactly right. Like the first panel where the character's introduced as like a 10-year-old boy, Serge drew like a soccer ball and cleats that were just kind of in his room along with his toys and other stuff, and like, because I don't even like soccer, right? So he made it authentic by adding that stuff. It's really exciting, and Henry could probably speak better to this than I can, but like coming together and having everybody contribute kind of equally and in their own way. It's like you're baking this cake, but you have no idea what it's going to come out like. And that, to me, that's like really thrilling experience.
Henry.
Me like authentic. I mean, it's Gonzo is always the guy who talks about this stuff in a more eloquent way, and he says that we brown people aren't a monolith, so you kind of want to share your experience, it being important to you and unique to yourself, and not try to represent all of brown people. I mean, my mom's side is half Mexican and half Native American, and my dad's side is from Juarez, Mexico. So there is like and I was born here, 6th generation Tucsonan. That's just in Tucson, not counting all the ancestors that are south of that in Mexico, that are in the Sonoran Desert. So I feel very lucky that I have a unique perspective of like having the Native and the Spanish and the Mexican and the American kind of identities that give me something to say that not a lot of people have that kind of experience.
So that leads us into our next question, actually, because a lot of your work explores history and identity and culture while centering their stories that haven't always had a place in mainstream comics, and you use comics as a medium to bring those to the forefront. What drew you to starting to tell those stories, starting with your What's the Mile, and how has your approach evolved, if at all, since you've seen how that has impacted readers?
Just to give everyone context, La Voz del Mayo, the Rambo, is my first graphic novel that was published in 2019. It's about my great-grandfather, who was a World War II veteran and a Chicano activist who helped one of the last Native American tribes gain federal recognition. And before that, I was a journalist, so I was doing a lot of writing, and March came out by the late great Congressman John Lewis, Andrew Aiden, and Nate Powell, and that gave me the confidence to take such a dense subject matter and try to make a comic book with it. I mean, comics have always spoken to me in a way that I feel very lucky. It pays my bills, it's taken me around the world, and I just love the craft so much, and I get to use this particular way of telling stories and trying to relay information to people while not trying to beat them over the head with it. And I think the pictures and words, that marriage between the two, lets people fill those gaps. My approach has just become more craft-centric, and it's just become more also because I'm the writer and the letterer, I get to have more control of what that says and how it looks. And the best thing I ever did was I got the BBC masterclass that Alan Moore did, and gave me so many different ways to look at the writing craft and also just enhance my world vision. So I'll always be grateful for that experience, and it's only just given me so much to be able to give back to the medium that I love.
And his journalism background, I'm assuming, is part of the reason why he is an amazing researcher, and in telling the stories that he tells, historical fiction, he adds so much back matter to his books. They are all just so great and interesting, and get you interested in something about a subject that you thought you knew about, but really highlights it in a way that is culturally relevant to the people that it was happening to. So
yeah, I never went to college, so comics is kind of like my college. Every book is something that I try to use as an experience to learn more, and I'm glad it makes y'all feel like you're learning so much, because I always feel like whenever I put the book out, I just know very surface level, and sometimes I do learn and feel like I know more than I normally do, but it's really hard, it's a struggle to let it go, because you just are always getting more answers and more questions, and always just trying to put it in a place that you feel comfortable leaving the art alone.
And the most important thing about Bosta Manfata Rambo is that we are in it.
That's the most important thing. Not about my great-grandfather helping one of the last Native American tribes get federal recognition, losing his family, and displaced. There was a possible village of people being displaced. That's not the most important thing. The most important thing is they are in it.
Yeah, so we are, I think at page 27.
So my great-grandfather used to have a candle making company as a job for the Native Americans so they could get job experience and work experience. And I was like, I told Gonzo, let's just have them make the candles. So they're 1970s candle makers.
Yeah.
Were there conchas in the panel too?
No.
In Death to Pachuco, their quote is 3 out of 3 conchas.
Okay. All right.
So we use conchas, and if you don't know, a concha is a type of pan dulce, which is Mexican sweetbread. And we use concha as our rating scale when we read and review books. And it's a scale of 1 to 3 because 3 conchas is the most conchas that Jen's mom ever let her eat in one sitting. So that was the best. Omar. With Major Tomas, you placed a Latino hero at the center of science fiction as an astronaut and someone imagining humanity's future. I've heard you talk about this, but I'd like for you to talk about it a little bit more here. Of why was it important for you to tell this story, and what does seeing a Latino character lead that exploration mean to readers, especially people who come to you and said, "Oh my God, like this is great."
What I really wanted to do is highlight for readers right on page 1. The very first thing I do is establish that Latinos in Space isn't just a pipe dream for me, a Mexican-American kid from Oakland. There is a rich history of Latinos in space and in NASA as astronauts, as flight directors, as engineers. I mean, there's story after story after story. I just read one a few weeks ago about a lady who was born in Mexico. She came to the US, her first job was at McDonald's, and she went into space within the last couple of years. And so right off the bat on page 1, I want people to know this is legitimate. If you have a dream of going to space, doesn't matter what color you are, you can do it. And there's others that have paved the path. So I wanted to ground it in reality and not make it like super cartoony and over the top, although there are, laser guns and ray beams and things of that nature. But to let people know this is like grounded in reality. And it was important for me to also get my hero, Jose M. Hernandez, a real astronaut, to do the foreword for the book, because he really was one of the major inspirations. Another inspiration was, the songs about the astronaut Major Tom who's lost in space, and I wanted to do my own version of that, so I made Major Tom Brown and, wrote about things that are familiar to me and our culture, and then get to the ray guns and laser beams and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of half and half, I would say, that this is real, this is achievable, and we're seeing more Latino representation in all forms of, entertainment, in politics, in all walks of life. I think, before long, Latinos are going to be the majority in the United States, so it's not like, a passing fad or something that's going to go away, so you might as well get used to us and our stories.
Thank you. Yes, and actually one of the things that resonated with me when reading your story is that Tomas's family are farm workers. And I grew up in a family of farm workers, and a lot of the things that were going on and some of the stuff that was happening really made me reflect on those things that I knew that I had experienced, but what that actually really meant. So it definitely had a lot of impact on me reading that story. So as a retailer, I've seen firsthand how powerful it is when readers find stories and characters that reflect themselves and their experiences. One of the goals of Comadres y Comics has always been to create access to these stories and connect audiences with creators and characters that they might not otherwise discover. So, Henry, I'd like for you and then Omar, how do you create access for your works? Whether it's through your storytelling, your platform, communities you've built, how does that look to you?
That's a good question. How do I create access?
Yes.
Well, I always approach every new book I do as a book that only 400 or 500 people are going to read. Just because it's a pretty achievable number, so I always make it available through crowdfunding. If I can give these things away for free, I would. I really do my best to make it affordable, like Death to Pachuco that just came out through Top Cow and Image Productions was $3.99. Normally books are $4, $5, $6.99 now. I shot myself in the foot with that because people are willing to pay $4.99, but I was forecasting the economy not doing so well, and I was right. But I didn't want people to think about the price of, for these things. If I could, I'd give it away for free, but it's usually through comic book stores, libraries. I'm a big advocate for libraries. I do my best to make it as widely available as possible. But yeah, it's not easy, I'm always paying people out of pocket. Everyone's paid up front, and a lot of what happens is people get paid at the back end. So after the book sells, there's a possibility that the book doesn't sell. So I always feel good about whenever you have a comic, everyone was paid. Nobody, there's no AI. And so I just try, I just really try to, I just love the applause every time I say that. I just, do my best to make it as available as possible while supporting retailers, because it's such a hard gamble, as you would know, because you never know what's going to sell, you never know it's just going to sit there, it might blow up and be really, valuable, but it's not easy, to make these things as expensive as they are for the price point that they're at.
Omar?
Yeah, kind of similarly, when Amazon approached me with a contract, they said, we want to put your book out there, your 125-page labor of love that you've been working on for years, for $6.99. I almost fell out of my chair. I thought, wait, graphic novels cost $20 at least, sometimes 25. A hardcover might even be 30. But then I thought about it. I was like, wait, would I rather move a bunch of units at a super attractive price globally, or try to rake in and claw back as much of the money as I can? Because just like Henry, I pay my people up front so that there's no risk for them. And I pay, it's a point of pride for me, as I'm sure it is for Henry too, to pay them their fair page rate and to pay them, up front. And that puts a lot of risk on us as creators that are fronting the bill. But you can't push back on an 800-pound gorilla corporation. So I went along with it, and I don't regret it at all, because now the book got picked up by Mad Cave, and it is going to sell for $20 in print. And so,
Nice.
Hopefully that'll even reach more people and create, more access. But one thing that I really do that's kind of close to my heart is I tinker with these little fan fictions, and then I put them out for free on Global Comics, because I haven't got caught yet, and so I stashed like Star Wars fan fictions and Metroid fan fictions, and I did a fan fiction about the X-Files, and I just put them out for free, and they're not long, they're 8, 10, 12 pages or whatever, and so I kind of stealth create access that way too. If people are fans of my work, it's like, hey, if you want to read some more and read some unlicensed licensed work, here you go. But there was one other thing that Henry said that was really it resonated with me.
Well, isn't it with the Amazon deal, you get a chunk of money right?
From
them?
Yeah, they give you a chunk up front, and then once you make that back, then you make residual.
So like they give you they give you enough to start paying people.
Yeah, I was basically paying myself back after
Yeah.
the large investment.
Oh, so you made it first, and then it got picked up?
Correct. It was done on spec, as they say, and it was done before they ever picked it up. But yeah, there was one other point that I had, but I can't remember what it is.
All right, if it comes to you, let us know. So when Comadres y Comics started, it was about creating a space for conversations that weren't happening elsewhere. 10 years later, Sarah, what do you think, what do you hope independent media, including Comadres y Comics, continues to do to make sure that more creators and stories have a place in the comics community?
We all have a 9 to 5, so I know that it takes a lot for us to kind of get together and record these episodes, but what I really want to make sure is that we continue to highlight indie comic creators because their stories resonate so much with us. I know I am the emotional one, so I always kind of identify with the characters. Sometimes they remind me of my mom, sometimes they remind me of my dad. You know, it's very it's such a feeling I get from reading the indie works out there because they're so personal and they're like the babies of the creators, so they put everything into it, and when they do that, it impacts us in such a way that, for me, it's in an emotional way where I can identify with the characters, or I can bring up a memory that they strike in me. So I feel that when we identify with these characters and these stories, I think the impact is so big and so real that nothing can it's so real that nothing can take that away from you. When you merge with these stories, you carry them with you. Gonna get emotional.
It's not an episode without you crying and everyone else crying.
Yes.
Jen, what do you hope that independent media, but as well Comadres y Comics, does to continue to highlight these creators?
Well, I don't want us to really go down into a niche. Like Omar had said, we cover everything. We cover women,
beer.
we cover
Not anymore, they discontinued beer.
Yeah, we did.
No.
No more beer. Unfortunately, I'm sober. But
She said unfortunately.
yeah. But definitely continuing to highlight not just Mexican or Argentinian or Brazilian, but also Chilean, Panama, Guatemalan, all the Costa Rican, Puerto Rican, and any other minority or any other I'm pretty sure there's even some that I can't even think of right now, nationalities and stuff like that, people who are trying to break into the industry, and that we can keep highlighting them or trying to give them a voice as well. Because I remember we read that comic book, I think it was Let Us In, about a bunch of creators who were trying to make it into the industry, and just, and then how it's incredibly difficult, and if there's any way that we can ease that just simply by talking about what it is that they're creating, I hope that we can continue making that space available for them.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what they both said, we have some segments on our podcast that does just that. We have In La Libreria, which translates to In the Library, and it's basically Jen highlighting Kickstarter campaigns that are live that she thinks are worth highlighting. And then we have Juntos y Fuertes, which translates to Together and Strong, where we highlight projects by members of other marginalized communities, and whether it's a live event or some sort of YouTube channel or a comic book. If it's a project that we find that needs to be talked about, like there is a ShiroCon event coming up in August, and it's put on by a Black woman who has a book about a little Black girl who is a martial artist. She grows up to be this amazing kind of super spy or whatever, but she has put together this convention which is made up of all women in the industry. So, and we're going to be there representing the podcast industry. So, yes, we have a saludos where we just shout out people who have done something cool recently in the industry, and we really try to be inclusive of everybody. So.
Las pláticas.
Yes, and Las Platicas is our ancillary show where we interview creators, and it is to be noted that we interviewed the Eisner-nominated team of Come Out and Play that is Eisner-nominated this year for Best Anthology. We interviewed them, we highlighted it, we shared the heck out of it, and it was successful again. We did that.
So you're saying if they win the Eisner, it's because of you?
It's because of us.
Losing a theme here.
But if you go back into our episodes, you will see multiple times we read and reviewed books that end up being Eisner nominated. So we are on the pulse of the, we have our thumb on the pulse of the comic book industry. Okay, so we're kind of down to time. If anyone has any questions, please come up. Yes, kind sir in the front.
There's a microphone in the middle there. You're a loud person.
He said he would turn it on, but I don't know where. Oh, okay. Well, we can hear you.
So you're saying that the Congress began looking at like the mainstream market, see stuff a little bit. Omar was saying earlier that early action training was like maybe getting work from the Latinx and Latin characters. What I would ask you guys is, and also as friends of doing the DC So White thing where they hadn't had a black main character and an ongoing series over 1,000 days. So my question is, realistically, what would you like to see DC or Marvel do for that representation?
I mean, definitely, and we had talked about this before, like, it's just not just one thing having, like, a black or a brown character on there. It also has to have a team behind it, like editors, artists, the writers, they need to hire people who are not just of that demographic, but who are willing to work in that demographic and pay them as well. Because I know that there's problems with like, pay and stuff like that as well, like the late paychecks and stuff like that. It has to be like, why is it that they can pay someone who has no comic book experience and they pay them like big dollars to write something? I know like they're prominent in other areas, but they have no comic book experience, and sometimes that comes across as well. But people who have been working decades in the comic book industry, but they pay them like, if even base pay, sometimes like a little bit less. So I want to see them put their money where their mouth is, because unfortunately, like money is what talks, especially for the big two. It's about profit, and if they put in the effort to hire people with that background and not only just like market it and put as much effort, like I know like they're money makers, they're Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. But seeing them put as much effort into a comic book team and a comic book character who is like a minority character, and giving them as much gas as they do to their like main three, I think that's what I would like to see from both Marvel and DC. But whether that will happen is another thing. But I would like to see it.
Yeah, like for a long time, we were told that Miles Morales was Afro-Latino, but we didn't know from where. And, just having just one word like, for instance, just throwing it out there like orale, like you can't just throw a word in Spanish and.
Well, there wasn't even that in the early days of Miles. I'm a huge Miles Morales fan, but the only way you knew that he was Latino at all was his last name. There was no authenticity in his character from his culture at all. So you've seen that change. That's not the same anymore. There are Afro-Latino creators, Latino creators. The stories are being a little bit more culturally relevantly told. And I have seen that change over the last 12 years of being involved in the retail comic space.
Yeah.
I didn't see a thing, but we're down to the end. And so I just wanted to give both Omar and Henry the opportunity to share with the audience where we can support you for the rest of the show, and then also where can we find you online? Henry?
I am at the Torpedo Comics booth. I am at the Top Cow booth. I'm at your local comic shop and libraries.
Yes, I got so excited when I walked by Top Cow and saw Death of the Chico up there. Omar, where are you and what are you doing?
I remember what I was going to say earlier now, is that much like Henry, I'm super into the library thing, and it's an honor to be here in this beautiful, big, giant library. And I'm plugged in with a group called Creators Assemble. They're all about librarians pushing comics. And I'm thrilled that now through the Mad Kid connection, my book will be available to people to read for free in a library digitally or physically at some point in the future. And in the back of the book, there's actually an educator's guide for librarians and teachers where they can use it like for lesson planning, for students. And so the book's available digitally on Amazon. I'm on, I have the same social media handle everywhere at omorales81. I have a website, theforcemedia.com. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. at the Mad Kids booth, I'll be signing prints and giving away stickers, booth 2806 at 10 a.m. tomorrow. So.
Yes, and thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to our amazing panelists. And we used to have a signature thing that we did at our appearances. We would give away conchas to people. That was to get them to come to our table so that we could give our pitch. You get a free pan dulce, we get to tell you about our podcast. If you meet us outside, you'll all get a concha.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.